Total Bro Sports. We report without sensationalism. We like some questions we love to ask you. Who came up with the name Jewish Jordan?
The Jewish Jordan nickname started with local media in Baltimore, and then it kind of went viral with international media.
You know, we read that you were covered in Sports Illustrated, ESPN, and CNN. How would you describe the pressure you felt to perform?
Yeah, it wasn't always easy, especially at a young age, but I tried to play for a higher purpose than just for my own love of the game, and that helped kind of release some of the pressure off of me because I didn't feel like it was just about me. It was about almost like a mission that was much greater than myself, and hoping to inspire other people. And that allowed me to handle the good times and the tougher times.
So who was the best player in high school you played against?
I would probably say Carmelo Anthony.
So what was the hardest part about being Jewish and playing basketball?
I don't think that my Judaism made basketball harder for me. I think Judaism helped me be a better basketball player because it gave me the focus and guidance and resilience and purpose that I needed to hopefully do my best on the court.
When you were playing basketball, what was your killer move on the court?
Passing, helping other people get better.
Oh.
That was always my favorite thing. I'm very dyslexic, which means it's hard for me to read and write, but I was able to see things on the court that other people couldn't see because of being dyslexic. So it was like a hidden blessing.
And what player when you were younger did you idolize?
I really loved Michael Jordan growing up. It was just like, I felt like every time we would watch a game and he was playing, our eyes would see something that we've never seen before. And that was always really cool.
So what made you get into basketball?
I was love at first sight. My older brothers played. They took me to the gym, and I never wanted to leave.
What was the hardest part about turning down the Maryland scholarship?
The hardest part about it probably was dealing with the media afterwards, and a lot of things that were written about me and said about me afterwards. But ultimately, it worked out really well for them, and it worked out really well for me, and there's no hard feelings on either side. And I'm still in touch with some of the people from the Maryland coaching staff and people that were part of that team. And I'm glad it worked out really well for them, and I'm glad that it worked out really well for me in the end.
So who was the best player you played against in Israel?
Omri Caspi. He was the first Israeli to make it to the NBA. After we played against him in Israel, he ended up having a 10-year career in the NBA, doing a lot of amazing things. So he's also a friend of mine, and I'm very, very proud of everything he's been able to accomplish.
When you were in Israel, you experienced some injuries. What was your mindset coming back from those injuries and playing the game again?
Yeah, I always tried to do everything that I could to come back stronger than ever. But unfortunately, in 2009, I just realized it would be impossible. I've done every surgery possible and did every type of physical therapy and training that I could, and eventually realized that my body just can no longer play at that level. But I'm glad that I never quit early.
So I heard about this in a video I saw about you of like 5 years ago. How did it feel when one of your coaches left and they brought in a new one?
Yeah, that was a very hard incident for me. But you know, it's hard to say it at the time, but looking back, I could realize that everything worked out well in the end for me, and I was able to come to Israel and play professionally and live out my dream and meet my wife, and now thank God we have 5 kids. So sometimes in life, like, we have to try to train our minds and our hearts to realize that if we're going through a challenge, it's there so that somehow we could grow and find a hidden blessing that otherwise wouldn't have ever come out if it wasn't for the challenge. And that's one of the examples that happened to me in my life.
Earlier on in this interview, you mentioned you play basketball for a higher mission. Would you mind describing what that higher mission is?
Yeah, I try to show the world that even if society tells you something's impossible, you could still try to make it possible. And for me specifically, that had to do with not playing on the Jewish Sabbath and still earning a Division I scholarship and playing professionally without having to play on the Sabbath. That was seen as impossible, and hopefully my journey could inspire other people in whatever realm they're in, and they think that for whatever reason reaching their goal is impossible, or society's telling them it's impossible. Maybe what I went through could hopefully inspire them and let them know that it isn't impossible. And when we try to elevate things and have good intentions, usually it leads to good blessings.
If you accepted that Maryland scholarship when you were a senior in high school, do you believe you would have made the NBA?
I don't know. I never think about it. I don't really answer too much what ifs. I focus more on thanking God for what I've been able to experience and what I am able to experience every day instead.
What was the toughest part about playing D1? Because a lot of people don't make it to that level.
Well, I think that the training and the physical requirements that it takes to play at that level is something that you try to prepare for, but you can't really prepare for it until you actually experience it. And I think especially early on when I first got on campus, I was really amazed at just how hard the training is and how exhausting it is, and the physical demands of being able to push your body to that limit on that consistent basis. But you get used to it and you grow, and I'm just thankful that I got to live out that experience because it's lifelong memories.
Along those same lines, would you say you felt a lot of pressure being the first freshman starter at Townsend?
Well, it wasn't like something that happened so quickly. It took a lot of effort and a lot of focus, and I was shocked when coach told me that, but on the other hand, I knew that I tried to put myself in the best situation as possible to earn that by doing well in the classroom, listening and paying attention, and doing the best that I could on the court. And most importantly, trying to be the coach on the court, meaning carry out what the coach wanted, put my players in a situation to succeed. I really got it because I was trying to be as selfless as possible. I wasn't thinking about myself. I was always thinking about my teammates. And ultimately, that's what got me the starting spot.
Oh.
So then when you were on the court, how did you balance when to shoot and then when to pass? You describe yourself as a selfless guy. Are you someone who's always going to pass first?
Well, you have to listen to the scouting report, and you have to know who you're matched up against every night, what's expected. So, we know that if they're pressing us, for example, our coach before the game is going to tell us what's considered a good way to break the press and what's going to be a good shot for us against the press and what isn't considered a good shot. And you have to study all these things and know these things, because in college basketball, if you take a shot that isn't considered a high percentage shot, you might get benched for something like that. Because if you take a shot that you're not supposed to take and the team's not expecting you to take and you miss it, most likely it's going to be a fast break. On the other end for the other team, because none of our guys are going to be expected to get back. They're just not, their mindset wouldn't be in it. It's not something that they would have expected. So you try to understand what's a good shot, what's a bad shot. And it comes from a lot of practice and a lot of listening and paying attention to the scouting reports and what the coaches tell you. Your scouting reports are so thick at that level. You know almost everything about the other team. You know all their sets, all their plays, what they like to do, their tendencies, what they don't like to do. And to be a college basketball player, a successful player, it's not just physical, it's mental. You need to be able to understand all that information and still do well in the classroom at the same time.
And then was it always your plan to eventually go to Israel and play professionally, or did you want to finish at Townsend?
Eventually, I always wanted to come to Israel. My dream was to make Aliyah, serve in the army, and play here professionally. I'm very glad that I was able to do that.
So what is the best part about having a basketball camp in Israel?
Get to meet players from all over the world and hopefully enhance kids' lives. And also, we bring over a lot of NBA players and coaches and show them Israel as well. So it's all in all a great time on and off the court.